Hello everyone, Maurice here, and today I want to help you answer this question. Is Axie Infinity worth playing in September 2023? So here I'm going to give you a gamer's perspective of a review where I'm going to just go through what Axie Infinity, the gaming ecosystem is, and whether the games are fun to play. Okay, so let's just get into it. So first of all, a bit of background. Axie Infinity is an NFT-based gaming ecosystem developed by Mavis since 2018. And of course, over the years, there's been different games and different iterations. But in this review, I'm just going to focus on the currently available gaming experiences in September 2023. Right? And hopefully help you answer this question of, is Axie Infinity worth playing? Before I get into it, just a bit about myself to give you some perspective. So I have been playing Axie since 2021, play the Axie Classic or V2. Okay, that's when the bull run and a lot of people are coming into Axie. And I was a casual player, just buy some Axies, play. And I actually partner with a friend and run a scholarship during the bull run as well. But then when the bear hits, most of the scholars left, and then I also took a break from Axies and actually came back to Axie mid 2022 when the new version of Axie game, right, Axie Infinity V3 or it's called Origins, was released. And since then, I started making content for Origins, and actually earlier this year, I also started doing some data analysis, write meta reports for Origins. And other than Origins, I also have a land in Lunacia, which is the Axie universe, and I'll also be sharing a bit about my experience with the land gameplay as well. But let's just get into the different type of gaming experiences you get in Axie Infinity at the moment. So the main game is Axie Infinity Origins at the moment. So it is a digital card game. And how I like to see it is that it's similar to, I guess, like Pokemon meets Hearthstone. But before I get into that, right, so when I say a gaming ecosystem is similar to something like you can think of as Pokemon, where Pokemon there's a main game, right? Probably the RPG game is the one that you think about, and then there are different games. There are the trading card games and other even casual mobile games and so on. So in a way, Axie Infinity is similar in that sense, and it has a main game, and the main game is Origins at the moment, and it is a digital card game. But first, let's just start with the axes. So let's just start with the similarity with Pokemon, right? And because that's kind of like the inspiration of where Axie came from. So Axes are digital pets where you can own. And actually, when you start the game, if you start Origins, they actually give you some free starter Axes to play with, just to learn the game. But you can also buy and own your own Axes, NFT Axes from the marketplace. Anyway, each Axie actually has six different parts. Okay, so there's the horn, the eyes, mouth, ear, tail, and the back. Right, and each of the parts you can see different axes looks different, right? Because their parts are different, and each part correspond to a particular card. Okay, so you can think about it as like different move sets, right, in a particular axis, but in this case, it's tied to their parts, and the parts are represented by cards. Okay, so this is where I guess I mentioned how X is similar to Pokemon meet Hearthstone, because you do have these creatures called axes, but then they have each axis have six cards, and you form a team of axes, three axes, so that you form a deck of 18 cards, and that's where the card games comes in. Okay, and in terms of gameplay, it's more similar to Hearthstone, where it's a turn-based game where one player starts first and then draw some cards, play the cards, and then pass the turn to the next player. Then the next player draw a card, play a card, and then ends their turn and then go back. So it's a kind of sequential kind of game. Um, and the goal of the game is pretty simple, really. You have your team of axes. You use your cards to defeat your opponent's axes. Whoever defeats the opponent's axes first wins the game. So uh, to go into a bit more about the gameplay, right? So for me, I think Axie Origins it's great for players who are really enjoy the team building and the theory crafting aspect. And the reason is that there are actually different combination of cards. A lot of the different combinations, have different synergies. And Axie Infinity really relies a lot on synergies. Right? Because if you form a certain synergies, then your deck will perform better, or you can deal more damage, and knock out your opponent's Axie faster, that kind of thing. Right? So yeah, it revolves a lot around synergies, and there are many different type of synergies there, and different type of strategy as well. And yeah, this is where it's fun that you can then try and think about, oh, what are the cards that can go together, and then you can go and shop for your axes that have the right combination of cards, or even breed your own axes with a certain combination of cards that work well together to form a team. Okay, so one thing that I should say is that similar to other games, right, Pokemon or Hearthstone or something, there is a ladder to climb, right? So the main game mode is actually for Axie Infinity Origins is a PvP game mode where most of the time what you want to do is to queue up in the arena and battle with other players. So similar to Hearthstone, where there's a ladder to climb and you want to climb to Legend in Hearthstone, or even in Pokemon, right? Of course, there's some players that are more involved in the PvE aspect, but there are also competitive players who are more involved in the PvP aspect, battling with other players. And there's also a ladder to climb in Pokemon as well, climbing to Master Ball. So similarly, in Axie Origins, there is a ladder system, and the highest level is called Challenger. Right? So of course, the one of your goals might be to climb up to Challenger. And as for other games as well, there are rewards, right? But in this case, for Axie, there are actually tokens, AXS tokens, rewards for ending up somewhere on the ladder, like above 20,000 ranks, right? So if you are the top 20,000 players, you will get a certain amount of AXS token, depending on where you end uh, at the particular era. Um, so era similar to, I guess, like different seasons in other games. And actually in Axie, it's pretty interesting that within one season there are different eras with different um, rule set. You can think of it that way. And yeah, so each era actually is about two weeks. So the meta can shift quite fast, and it's quite fun in the sense that you don't actually get you don't get stuck in a particular meta for too long, right? Just because each era is only 2 weeks, and then you move on to the after 2 weeks, then you move on to the next one, right? So unlike other games where sometimes the meta just never change for the whole 2 months or something, right? If there's no updates in terms of the games. Okay, so here I just want to show more about the different archetypes that are viable, and here are actually all at Challenger, and all the matches played at Challenger at different tiers. Even of course, like in Legend, you have like in Hearthstone, you have maybe top 1,000, or many people, right, that can get to Legend. So similarly, many people can get to Challenger, and you can see that different archetypes are viable. In this case, I show at least like 8 or 9 here, and there are actually a lot more that I haven't captured, that are viable to get a challenger. So this is, I guess, a good time to come into Origins, just because like the meta is relatively diverse, and you get to play different matchup, you get to face different kind of teams. Okay, so that is for Origins. Do want to move on to talk about other games. So the next one is called Axie Infinity Homeland. It is a land management game. So uh, what happens in this game is that you, first of all, you need to own a plot in order to play this game, right? A land plot. So you need to buy a land plot from the marketplace to play this game. But if you own a land plot, then you can go into the game, and it's really like similar to other land management game, right? Where okay, you start with a pretty empty plot, right? Not a lot of buildings, and then you start harvesting, gathering material, construct more buildings. You can also then level up. Actually, you can level up your plot, then allows you to build more buildings, like more different type of buildings, and you can craft items, and you can grow more different types of crops as you level up, that kind of thing. So it's really like a progressive game, right? Um, it's a relatively repetitive, I would say, right? Every day you come in, you log in, you probably do the same thing. You harvest your crops, you grow more crops, you go and harvest, go and mine the stones, and so on, right? And then build more new buildings and so on. So uh, yeah, so I would say it is a pretty fun game for those who really just enjoy seeing your plot like progress, right? Day by day, right? Every day you might need to earn like save a certain amount of gold or coins in order to upgrade or something, right? And then there is always like a progress. You can see progress and something to work towards. Hey, so this is this kind of game. So one thing I should say is that there's also another aspect of this game which is combat, but it is relatively, I would say, not so well developed at the moment. That's how I feel. Actually, the system is no, there's some complexity to the system. It's just that at the moment it is a passive battling system where adventurer comes to your plot, you equip them with like food, potion, weapon, shield, or whatever. And then you can actually form teams of three as well. Right? They actually have different classes, so you might want to have a certain combination that can work well better, and with certain equipments as well. And then you just send them off, and then they will do the passive battling. You can think of it as like auto chess kind of thing, right? They just okay battle, and yeah, so in that sense, for me, it's not too engaging just because you can actually watch the battle, but for me, it's just like, okay, just send them off, and actually you sell those items to the adventurer to get the gold, and then you have more gold than to build your thing. So for me, it's not my thing, but for some people, they might enjoy it, and that's another part of this game. Okay, so one thing that I should also mention, and I should scroll down first, is the reason is that they actually have a very recent update from yesterday about the reward system that they have just updated. And how the reward system works now, which for me, I quite like it, is that you can have a chance to earn a small amount of AXS token, right? So from just doing daily activities, right? Just doing the gathering, the producing, crafting, and combat. By doing those, you already have a chance to get a certain amount of AXS. Basically, if you play the game for a few hours, then you will get a certain amount of rewards. But of course, it is capped, right? So that you won't grind for like I don't know, like 24/7, just because you don't want to miss out on the AXS. So there is a cap on for each plot how much you can earn. But I think yeah, it's a really good system. I feel it's because like for me, I just want to log in, play a while, and through the gameplay, I do get rewarded by like, having a bit of token, even though it is at the moment very small amount. I would say it's not that much, but still, it's just another small incentive. And there's actually another system here, which is that by doing some special tasks, you can actually have a small chance of getting 5 AXS, which is pretty significant. But of course, this is limited per server per day, so only a few people will get it every day. So that's why this is more like a lottery kind of thing, but it does incentivize people to do certain kind of activities. But anyway, so that is like I guess another aspect of the game that might appeal to you, right? Where a lot of the other farming games that you play, you don't really get rewarded by your gameplay, but in this case, right, by doing stuff on your plot, you earn a small amount of token, and hopefully this amount will increase as the game is more developed. Because at the moment, a lot of the actually, like by owning a land, you do get some staking rewards. All right, so if you stake your land, you do get some rewards every day, and hopefully we'll get to a point where the staking reward will all shift to gameplay rewards, so that like you do get more tokens from the gameplay and rewards players who actually play as opposed to just owning the land. Okay, So that's for Homeland, and I do want to talk about other games as well. I won't go into them in details, but there are actually other games that are already out and also upcoming games as well. So Raylight is another one that's out. So Axie Infinity Raylight is a relatively simple casual game. Also involve like kind of land plot kind of thing, but instead of building buildings and stuff like that, this one is really just about trying different combination of minerals to grow certain type of plants, certain combination of minerals will give you special plants. Then yeah, you can basically then use those plants that you obtain and decorate your land. So that's basically how I see it. So it can be fun for some people who really just try to collect different types of plants and then decorate the land nicely with the plants. And another game is Defender of Lunacian Land, so Dole. So this one is actually pretty fun as well. It's a survival action game, right, where you choose your Axie. Each Axie has a different kind of sets of skills, and then what you do is like there will be waves of monster coming in, and your Axie will actually automatically attack based on the I guess skill sets, and then you just try to move your Axies around and try to survive the waves of monsters as long as possible. Okay, so those are the two games, and even from Sky Mavis, they are also developing other games. So one very prototype game is actually called Project T. They just launched last month, and it's a pretty fun social game. Of course, it's very simple at the moment, but it has this social MMO component where players can just create an avatar, come to the town area where you can meet other players, and most importantly, of course, is that you can bring your own Axie and show off your Axies with other players, and that is where the collectible part comes in, right? So you can think of it as like for Pokemon, maybe you want to catch a shiny Pokemon, and then of course you want to show off to your friends and so on. So it's similar for Axies, right? Maybe you're an Axie collector who collect there are rare Axies, right, with special parts out there, and you might just want to show off to your friends, and you can also chat with your friends here. So it is a pretty fun experiment. Of course, at this point, it's still very early stage, but hopefully this will be developed enough that there'll be enough gameplay that people will have an incentive to log in every day and and hang out. Okay, so those are the games that are kind of available, and there are actually games that are under development, and they have this actually so-called Mavis Hub green light system where players can actually try out certain games and vote whether they want these games to be in the Mavis Hub Axie Infinity gaming ecosystem. So these are mostly third-party games that they develop using the Axie IP. And you can see there are actually different type of games, right? So there are cooking games, there's the thing, fighting kind of game, there's the sports kind of game, there's the dungeon crawl kind of game, and then also card games as well. Right? So there's different type of games out there. So of course these are very early stage, and you can actually try them out. And actually anyone can just download Mavis Hub, create an account, and just download this game and just try them out. So yeah, it's of course very early stage, but if you see that there are certain games that you like, I think then like there's a lot of potential out there. Let's put it that way, right? There's just a lot of games that are probably still yet to be on this list, right? And so this is where the potential comes in. Hey, so I do want to talk about this concept where okay, now you see that different type of games being developed, right? How are they even related, and like how is it like a Axie experience, right? And there's this concept called, I guess they call it Axie Core, and it revolves around uh, something called Axie Experience Points, AXP, and AXP is really what connects all the gaming experiences. So how it works is that you can own your Axie, and currently you can actually already start leveling up your Axies in Axie Infinity Origins. And by leveling up your Axies, at the moment it doesn't do anything, right? Other than okay, your Axie is high level. But of course, in the future is that you can level up your Axies in different type of games. Right? Let's say, oh, I enjoy playing this game, so I just mostly play this game, right? But maybe you want to try out other games, and you can still try out other games with your Axie, and it can still contribute to leveling up your Axies. And the key part about AXP is that hopefully in the future, right, by leveling up your Axies and ascending your Axies, then it might give you certain advantage in certain games, right? So for example, in Origins, they might give you maybe different cards or the cards that are upgraded. And other games, it might just give you other benefits, right? And this is where you say, oh, okay, if I work hard in this game to level up my Axie, it will give me benefit in other games in the Axie ecosystem as well. Of course, still very early stage. We'll have to see how this goes. But if you really see the potential and you just want to get in early and start leveling up your Axies, then again, it's always a good time. This is always a good time to join, especially with Origins, where the meta is relatively diverse. And I would say it's pretty fun to play at the moment, just because you do get to fight against different type of teams, right? So the games won't be too repetitive. Okay, so um, let's move on to this part, which is of course the earning potential in playing Axie Infinity, because a lot of people think of Axie Infinity as, oh, it's a blockchain game, it's about play to earn, right? And of course we went through the whole bull and bear cycle. Yeah, then the question is, like, is it worth playing in terms of like the economy? So let's just talk about the game economy in Origins. So currently, uh, the economy definitely has changed a lot since V2, right? Especially during the peak of the bull run, right? And it's just everyone just playing Axie because they're earning SLP, but those days are long over, I would say. And how it works now basically is, okay, let's just talk about it as a beginner first, right? If you're just starting, you can just sign up, download the game, right? In Origins, download Origins on your device, install it, and then sign up with an account, and you can already start playing. You don't have to pay anything. The game gives you free starter Axies, right? So you can try the game out, you can like learn different mechanics and so on. And you can even use the free starter Axies to climb the leaderboard. And if you are good at it, you can climb up to a point where you can earn AXS rewards. So in a way, you can really so-called do the free to play to earn. Now, of course, with starter Axies, they are not, okay, I won't say they are not powerful. It's just that they're not too synergistic. And so that's why they are not the most competitive team, right, in terms of forming a team. So this is where you might want to, move on to start buying your own Axie. But before I get into that, yeah, I forgot to mention, right? So other than the leaderboard rewards, in season 5 they actually introduced these fortune chests that includes like AXS reward as well. I think they already had SLP rewards as well. So if you win a game in arena, you had a chance of getting these chests, and in these chests, like it's a gacha kind of thing, right? You can think about it that way. You might have a chance of getting tokens as well. So that's another way of earning. Okay, so for players who are, like, okay, like they try out the game, they really want to play more, right? Then the next step is really about buying Axies. And back then, Axies cost hundreds of dollars, but now it's relatively cheap. It's like $2. You can probably get like the floor price Axie or something. Of course, you might want to spend a bit more, maybe like $5 to get like a better Axie. Of course, the better the Axie, the more expensive it is, right? So of course, everyone might have a different price point. And this is actually the fun part. One of the fun part about Axie as well is like try to do your best within a certain budget, right? So okay, for casual players, the main game loop is really okay. This season, you want to, let's say, play a particular team, then you want to spend a particular amount to buy Axies that has a particular synergy. Okay, then the other thing that you can do, right, is that you can craft items. So you can spend SLP actually, right? So spend certain token to craft some items. And you can also then, once you craft the item, you can sell the items actually. If you don't want those items, you can sell them off, right? So when I say items, actually, the NFT items, they're actually free items that do not need SLP token to craft. And there are so-called NFT items that you can use tokens. You spend some tokens to craft the items. If you don't want them, you can sell them off. And of course, if there are people who are selling, you can also, there are certain items that you want, you can also buy those items. So for a normal casual player, then what you do is, okay, you buy some Axies, buy some items, craft some items, sell some items. Okay, and basically at the end of each era, right, if you rank at a certain point at the leaderboard that's above 20k, then you earn the AXS rewards. I would say for some players, they just really enjoy like building a certain team, like they pay to enjoy the game, buy some Axies, buy some items, grind through a ladder, and depending on how far they end up, they might make a profit if they actually get high enough on the ladder to cover the cost. If not, then they at least have fun, right? And the key part is that they can still sell off the Axies if they just decide to, okay, I don't want to play this team anymore. I want to play another team. They can actually decide to sell off the Axies and buy a new team. Okay, yeah, so of course, if there are some players who are pretty smart about it, right, in terms of managing their budget and also like maybe just getting good deals from the marketplace. And of course, if you get lucky in fortune chests and open like a big amount of tokens, then obviously that could cover your costs in terms of buying the Axies and items and so on. Okay, yeah, here's like what I mentioned about the crafting. So other ways in which you can earn. So because there's marketplace, then you can always earn by flipping items and Axies as well. But of course, this is a very high risk activity because yeah, what if you buy your Axies but you can't sell them off and so on. So yeah, one thing I should say is that yeah, nothing in this video is financial advice. So this is me sharing about what are the potential to earn, but everything has a certain kind of risk, right? For example, even if you're a good player, you spend a certain amount on buying a very good team of Axie, okay, but then you might not perform as well on ladder as you would expect. Maybe the team is just not as good as you thought, right? And maybe other players have better counter for your team or so on, right? So you might not actually end up where you think you will in the leaderboard, and you might not be able to recover your costs from buying the Axies and items. So yeah, so that's always risk involved. And another way in which you can earn in Axie Infinity is actually breeding. Again, very high risk, but can be high reward. The breeding in general has a lot of RNG involved, right? Because even with like if you have two parents and I guess children Axies or the daughter Axies will have combinations of the parents' traits, right? So you have no idea how they'll end up. And of course, if you get a good combination, then they can sell for a good price. But if you don't, yeah, then you might make a loss just because you do need to spend tokens to do the breeding. Okay, and finally for Origins, if you're very, very serious about it, or even for Classic, right, there are tournaments out there. Of course, prices, I must say, I'm not a pro player. I don't know how the prices are at this point. But one thing I know is that it is very expensive in terms of investment in order to be competitive at a tournament, right? Just because you need to get not just one team, but usually like a few teams that are competitive enough to be that you can use to perform well in the tournament. And unless you really end very high up in the tournament, otherwise it might not cover your investment costs. Okay, so that is for Origins. So for Homeland, I already mentioned about the reward system, and to be fair, at the moment it's not much to say just because it's still very early stage, and yeah, there's still, you can see the roadmap here is still a long way to go. So I personally wouldn't go into Homeland, just for the economic purposes. One thing I would say is that if you own a land, you can stake it, you can get some rewards. Yeah, so you can think of that as an investment, but of course, who knows, right, how much the land will cost in a year time, right? But if you just want to play the game, then yeah, why not? So that is pretty much it. So just to conclude, right, I would say Axie Infinity has been around for a while, but it's still relatively early, as you can see. Like there's so many games still coming up, but if you are looking for like a digital card game and if you really enjoy like the theory crafting aspect, then I would definitely suggest you give Axie Infinity Origins a go. Origins is really the main game that I think is relatively well, I guess, developed at this point. For the other games, I think it's good to try them out, and yeah, maybe there are some that you will enjoy. But in terms of potential to earn, I would say it's like don't expect to earn a lot. Like if you're smart about it, if you get lucky, then you might be able to earn a small amount, and that could be a fun aspect of the game. But personally, definitely treat it as a game where you might just like pay a bit to you can just buy the game. But in this case, the idea is that you can actually make some potential earning, right? You don't just lose all your money that you spend on so-called buying the game, right? Because in this case, you're buying NFTs that you can actually sell off if you decide that you want to quit the game. So I think that's the main advantage of Web3 or blockchain games in general. And yeah, before I end, I should mention that Axie actually has a very strong and active community, and that's definitely like one of the biggest strength of Axie Infinity, the whole ecosystem. So yeah, thanks for your support, and yeah, do leave a comment or any suggestions, and also do feel free to reach out to me through comments or even on X or Twitter or Discord as well. And if you decide to give Axie Infinity Origins a go or like coming back to it, do feel free to use my Lunacian code Maurice. And yeah, that's it for this video. So hopefully I'll see you in the Axie Infinity arena and see you in the next video.